Chief Executive John Lee urges the public to vote at the forthcoming legislative elections. Donald Trump now says he looks forward to the meeting with President Xi. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. The 8th-term Legislative Council election will take place on December 7th, with the nomination period beginning tomorrow. Major political parties have begun unveiling their candidate lists. Chief Executive John Lee has called on civil servants and the public to cast their ballots, noting that the government will work actively to ensure the election is well organized. With the nomination period for the upcoming Legislative Council election poised to begin on Friday, the Electoral Affairs Commission held a launch ceremony at the central government offices. Jointly officiating the event were Chief Executive John Lee and Electoral Affairs Commission Chairman David Locke. The city leader says many policies and funds have to go through the legislative process, so who will serve as lawmakers matters much. He says he has instructed all government departments to deploy sufficient staff and properly arrange manpower for polling day. David Locke, who chairs the Electoral Affairs Commission, says elections are always about comparing candidates' political platforms and capability. And if we elect capable people into the legislature to serve us, Hong Kong will naturally make progress. The Hong Kong Jockey Club says they would actively promote the upcoming election. To encourage participation, the racecourse will display government promotional materials on polling day. Multiple political parties started to unveil their lists of candidates as the nomination period approaches. The Liberal Party, which currently holds 4 seats, will field 5 candidates, including 3 newcomers. Seeking re-elections are Michael Lee from the Election Committee constituency and Peter Hsu from the wholesale and retail sector. Veteran lawmaker Tommy Cheung, who has represented the catering sector for 25 years, will pass the baton to Southern District Councillor Jonathan Leung. Meanwhile, Frankie Yik from the transport section will step down and has not named a successor. For the geographical constituencies, the Liberal Party will field 2 district councillors to contest Hong Kong Island East and Hong Kong Island West. The Federation of Trade Unions announced 16 candidates will contest the election, with 7 incumbents running again. They include Stanley Ng, Bill Tang, and Jovi Chan, as well as Suk Chung Hung and Kwok Wai Keung. The Democratic Alliance for the Betterment and Progress of Hong Kong, the city's largest party, earlier announced it will field 26 candidates, the most among all parties. Of its 19 incumbent lawmakers, 14 will seek re-election. The New People's Party, led by Regina Ip, has yet to unveil its candidate list. The 7th-term Legislative Council concluded its final meeting on Thursday. Memo Sangai reports.
Waving and smiling, the legislators looked into the cameras after the final meeting of the Legislative Council's current term. Everyone took part in the group photos. A lawmaker went around to collect colleagues' autographs. Meanwhile, this was the present that the lawmakers prepared for the outgoing LegCo president, Andrew Leung, who held the position for 9 years. Leung earlier said that he would not run in the December LegCo election. In the final meeting, the legislators discussed the promotion of rural tourism. Leung delivered a concluding speech after the motion was passed.
It is clear that over the past 4 years, we have been working together to serve the public. What LegCo could not do in the past is done by this term. We don't avoid difficulties. We are pragmatic. We are innovative. We are down to earth. This is a sound foundation for the LegCo to perform even better.
Lawmaker Lo Wai Kwok expressed his emotions through music. Lo has also opted out of the upcoming election. As of Thursday afternoon, 23 lawmakers have decided not to seek re-election. Moments 9, TVB News.
The 4th plenary session of the 20th Central Committee of the Communist Party of China concluded today. The closing session was held in the Great Hall of the People. The Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee presided over the meeting. The participants heard and discussed a report presented by President Xi Jinping on the work of the Political Bureau. Participants adopted the recommendations of the CPC Central Committee for formulating the 15th five-year plan for economic and social development, which is considered a barometer for China's economic and social development over the next 5 years. The meeting set the goal of achieving a significant increase in China's economic, scientific, and national defense strengths, as well as socialist modernization by 2035. The United States is reportedly mulling curbs on exports to China manufactured with American software in response to Beijing's rare earth export control, as negotiators from both sides prepare for a new round of trade talks in Malaysia. U.S. President Donald Trump said he expects to ink a deal in a prospective meeting with President Xi Jinping in South Korea next week. Danny Zhou has more.
Trump said when hosting NATO chief Mark Rutte that he has a long meeting scheduled with Xi during his upcoming trip to South Korea.
We'll be going to Malaysia, South Korea, and Japan. In South Korea, I'll be meeting with President Xi of China. We'll have a pretty long meeting scheduled. We can work out a lot of our questions and our doubts and our tremendous assets together. So we look forward to that. I think something will work out. We have a very good relationship, but that'll be a big one.
Trump expected a trade deal with the Chinese leader that could range from soybean purchases to rare earth minerals. He downplayed the significance of China's sweeping rare earth export curbs by calling the measure a disturbance, and further noted tariffs is a more powerful issue.
What deliverables? I think we'll make a deal. I think we're going to make a deal on the rare earth is the least of it. Look, the tariffs are much more powerful than the rare earth. The rare earth is a disturbance, but there's a lot of rare earth around. I'll tell you, I've had more calls on rare earth. We've got it. Everybody's.
The November 1st deadline is looming for 100% additional U.S. tariffs on all Chinese goods. In a recent interview, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent confirmed his country was also considering limiting exports of products using American software to China. He said everything is on the table, signaling these export controls, whether it's software, engines, or other products, will likely be in coordination with their G7 allies. His remarks come ahead of his highly anticipated negotiations with the Chinese delegation led by Vice Premier He Lifeng in Kuala Lumpur. Bessent noted he was optimistic that their fresh round of trade talks from Friday to next Monday could lay the groundwork for a good meeting between the two heads of state. China's Ministry of Commerce said in a statement that both parties are expected to discuss key issues in the bilateral relations. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney set a goal for his country to double its non-U.S. exports in the next decade. Carney said many of Canada's former strengths based on close ties to America have become vulnerabilities as Washington's tariffs cause a chill in investment.
Our partners around the world are already taking note of new Canadian ambition. Last month, we signed a historic free trade deal with Indonesia, the world's fourth largest country by population. We've just signed foundational agreements with the United Arab Emirates in AI, and with the EU in defense and trade, and with Germany in critical minerals. We're re-engaging with global giants India and China, while we deepen our partnerships with our traditional allies.
And still ahead, U.S. sanctions against top Russian oil companies. Salvage team with an 80-member crew ready to lift the crash plane. And the return of the much-anticipated Wine and Dine Festival. Welcome back. U.S. President Donald Trump said he's imposing tremendous sanctions on Russia's two biggest oil companies and said he hopes they will persuade Russian President Vladimir Putin to agree to a ceasefire in the war against Ukraine. This after a summit between Trump and Putin in Hungary was cancelled. Moscow called the measures counterproductive to securing peace with Ukraine. China's foreign minister said Beijing opposes unilateral sanctions. Nasi Karim with more.
The aftermath of a Russian strike on Ukraine's second biggest city, Kharkiv. Russian drones also caused damage in the capital Kiev and Zaporizhia province, with Moscow also claiming to have captured more territory in Donetsk, continually changing the front lines of battle where US President Donald Trump wants them to stop. Feeling he has so far exhausted all possible diplomatic efforts to secure a ceasefire, Trump has turned to sanctions for the first time, hitting Russia's two biggest oil companies, Rosneft and Lukoil. Sitting alongside NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, Trump said he hopes the sanctions will have an effect.
Look, these are tremendous sanctions. These are very big. Those are against their two big oil companies, and we hope that they won't be on for long. We hope that the war will be settled. We would like to see them just take the line that has been formed over quite a long period of time and go and let's, go home.
Britain also recently imposed sanctions on the two oil companies, while the European Union approved new measures that include a ban on Russian liquefied natural gas imports. Rutte said NATO backs Trump's moves.
So his position here, and I completely support this, is, as he said, stop where you are. So as both to the Ukrainians as well to the Russians. So I'm absolutely convinced that with sustained pressure, we will be able to get Putin to the table to agree with a ceasefire and then other talks coming after that.
Trump said Chinese President Xi Jinping can influence Putin, and the US president hopes to pursue that line in a potential meeting with Xi in South Korea next week.
Yeah, I do. I think he can have a big influence on Putin. Look, he's a respected man. He's a very strong leader of a very big country. I think he can have a big influence, and we will certainly be talking about Russia-Ukraine.
With Russia continually looking for ways to fund the war, lawmakers on Wednesday approved in the first reading of a bill that will raise value-added tax. Finance Minister Anton Siluanov said Moscow needs to spend on defense and security, with the VAT rate rising to 22% from 20%. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance sought to ease concerns in Israel that Washington was dictating terms to its closest ally in the Middle East. When asked by a reporter about whether Israel was becoming a protectorate of the U.S., Vance said, "We don't want in Israel a vassal state, and that is not what Israel is. We want a partnership. We want an ally." Another concern in Israel is that an international security force in Gaza could limit Israel's military's ability to take action in the Palestinian territory if it perceives a threat to its own security. It is understood that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu expressed his opposition to Turkish troop presence. Turkey and Israel's relations have been tense in recent years. In France, the director of the Louvre, Laurence Decker, has acknowledged security failures at the museum after Sunday's daylight jewelry heist. She said she had tendered her resignation, but the culture minister refused to accept it. The Louvre and its star attractions reopened on Wednesday for the first time since one of the most audacious museum raids of the century made headlines. It is reported that the pieces from France's crown jewels remain missing and the assailants are still at large. In testimony to the French Senate, Decker confirmed all alarms were functioning, but admitted the museum had a shortage of security cameras outside the monument, among other weaknesses. An Emirates cargo plane swerved off the runway after landing on Monday and rammed into a security patrol vehicle, killing 2 airport staff. Salvage operations of the plane began this morning. Memo Sengai reports.
One of the salvage vessels approached the airport's north runway breakwater around 8 a.m. and moored next to the stricken cargo plane. A small boat was dispatched to inspect the wreckage. The Marine Police also assisted in the nearby waters. Staff wearing red vests were coordinating on the shore. The airport authority, which is coordinating the salvage operation, said it has commissioned the Guangzhou Salvage Bureau in collaboration with a mainland shipping company to deploy 2 salvage vessels with lifting capacities of 350 and 500 tons, respectively. About 80 personnel, including divers, mechanical operators, and engineers, are involved in the salvage operation. Families of the deceased visited the scene this morning to pay their respects. The cargo plane, owned and operated by a Turkish company, along with the pilot and crew, was leased to Emirates Airlines. Representative of a group assisting the family said they met this morning with officials from the Transport and Logistics Bureau, the Airport Authority, the security company, and the Turkish Consul General in Hong Kong. The Consul General offered his condolences to the families and will also arrange a meeting between the airline and the families of the victims. The airport's north runway is expected to be closed for several days during the salvage operation. Mamos 9, TVB News.
A High Court jury on Thursday determined that a 93-year-old plastic surgeon unlawfully killed a top banker by gross negligence during a botched Botox injection 7 years ago. The 52-year-old female customer sought the Botox treatment from Lee at the Tsim Sha Tsui Beauty Clinic. She died after the Botox injection. In September, the High Court jury determined that Lee, who suffered from dementia and neurocognitive disorder, was unfit to stand trial. After deliberation on Thursday, the jury ruled that Lee had committed all the acts in his original manslaughter charge. The case has been adjourned until November 12th, when Lee will receive his sentencing. Lee remains on bail in the meantime. Ocean Park says it may consider closing down its Water World attraction amid total deficit of $274.7 million. The Water World itself posted losses of $150 million in 2024 to 2025. The city's tourism industry representative says the park should introduce package deals and other promotions to woo more visitors. Speaking on a radio program, Ocean Park Chairman Paolo Pang said the theme park may not rule out the need to shut down Water World. He said the theme park will discuss with various stakeholders. The old water park, which operated from May to September each year, was eventually closed in 1999 owing to financial losses. 14 years later, the new water park opened. In 2021, it was promoted as an all-weather attraction, but the park only managed to stay open through the seasons for 2 years before closing again for the winter last year. The strong monsoon signal is in force. The observatory says temperatures will rise over the weekend as the northeast monsoon will moderate slightly on Friday. The weather remained cloudy during the day. It was also very windy in many parts of the city. Most residents were dressed in long-sleeved clothing. Weather authorities say an easterly airstream will affect the coast of Guangdong early next week, with temperatures ranging from 23 to 28 degrees Celsius. The annual Wine and Dine Festival has kicked off on the Central Harbourfront and will run for 4 days. Organized by the Hong Kong Tourism Board, Wine and Dine will extend its opening hours by half an hour for the first time this year until midnight. This year, over 300 stalls featuring exhibitors from 31 countries and regions are present. After a 7-year hiatus, the premium wine area returns. Visitors can sample nearly 500 top-tier wines, including those from 5 top Bordeaux estates in France, as well as renowned mainland brands. Admission is $40, but if visitors wish to purchase wine and food, they will need to purchase separate tasting vouchers. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.